After a lot of scrubbing and stripping, finally getting ready to start shooting epoxy primer on things. That's a big step forward. So anyways, say goodbye to the silver. So today I've been socially isolating myself and doing body work on Lola. So here we go. I think I have just put on what I believe is the very last coat of body filler. I've been putting on very, very tiny amounts, but as you work your way around and you sand on stuff, you discover that there are imperfections that are so small you can't see them. Just really, really, really shallow low points, but you can feel them with your hands. And so if you rub your hands over it, your hands are just so sensitive, you can actually find imperfections. And so what I've been doing is any place I find something really small, typically it's in the corners. I've been working to try to put on a tiny bit of filler and then sand it back off so that there's, I mean, at max, maybe a 32nd. For the most part, it's substantially thinner than that. It's just a real skiff. So anyway, the next step then will be to, once I sand this off, hopefully in 20 minutes or so, the next step will to apply several coats of urethane 2K primer and then work through the whole process again with 400 and 600. So I've done all the other panels. They're over here. You'll see just real thin areas where there was pitting or maybe dings or things like that. On this panel here, it had been, I don't know, it'd been nicked pretty good in that corner right there. And so it might get to a 16th thick in that spot, but it's dead flat now. I've worked with progressively with long sanders, and so that's dead flat right now. And so I'm pretty happy with the way things are working out. And so hopefully tomorrow I'll be spraying urethane again, and then once that is completely done and fared, then I'm going to hit it with some epoxy primer again as a final sealer. So that's the progress. This has about 4 coats of high build primer on it. The order of things that I did is I put epoxy primer on first after all the rust repair. Epoxy primer. Then I did a skim filler over everything and block sanded that back. And now this area was the worst area on the entire car, and it is really nice. So I'm really excited about that. So epoxy primer, then body filler, then another layer of epoxy primer because in a couple of spots I did sand all the way down to bare metal. Then 4 coats of high build primer, and those were really thick wet coats. So that's a really heavy layer, and I don't know if you can see, but there's some orange peel there, so I'm gonna have to work at sanding this down, but I'll block sand that down to where it's dead flat. I start out with basically 200 grit, and then I'll progress to 400, 600 on up. But that's the process I'm going to go through. When I get to 800, I think that's probably where I'll have to stop, or where I will stop. I don't know, I might go a little beyond that. But basically the goal is to block sand it to where it's perfectly smooth, and then I will put another coat of epoxy primer thinned as a sealer, and I will shoot paint. Now I'm going to try to paint it myself. Famous last words, right? That's my goal, and that will be later on this summer. But for right now, I'm just working my way through each of the panels. I'm about halfway through, and it's going faster than I expected, to be honest with you. So I'm really happy with the process. So that is just finishing the first rub down with 220 using a hard block primarily, and it's good. I can see already that I'm not quite, I don't know if you can see that, but right here you can see that I'm not quite through all of the orange peel. We're not perfectly smooth yet. So I'll have to hit this one more time. But it is, it's looking pretty darn good as a whole. It was really difficult to get the body panels on, but as you can tell, I have them, and I'm really happy with door gaps and things like that. I'm not going to lie, it was not easy, and I had to work pretty hard to get some of the fenders on. As a matter of fact, on the other side of the car had been hit clearly at some point. That fender was a real mess, and so I actually had to weld on a little bit on the bottom. I don't know if I didn't get the sills quite lined up properly, but there wasn't enough room to bolt them to the sills. So I had to weld on a small plate at the bottom down here. That's done. I've just sprayed the whole thing with 4 more coats of high build primer, and I've been blocking it back with 600. And I have, I'm about 2/3 of the way done with that. So we are making big progress, and hopefully the next video I make, it will be painted. I've chickened out, and I'm not going to paint it myself. I've painted the insides of all the fenders and the chassis myself. I've clear coated everything inside there, but the metallic blue I think is too scary. And so I've heard a lot of horror stories about people striping the paint if they don't really know what they're doing, and I'm a rank amateur. So I have a local body man who does really nice work, and he's willing to paint it for me for $900. I can't afford not to. That's a check I'm gonna write with a smile. So he's gonna paint it and clear it for me. So I've just gotta brace up my stand. I'm gonna put some cross braces because I've got to trailer it down there. And it's about 15 miles. And so hopefully you'll see it painted soon. A lot of other fiddly stuff has gone on. I've spent probably weeks at the buffing wheel. The chrome, which I thought was toast, is actually coming out really, really nicely. Had to throw away a couple pieces, but yeah, you'll start seeing it going on the car here soon. It's coming together fast.